It's Sarah Robb O'Hagan, and I was a guest on the Fitness Business Podcast. Legendary, loved them, where I talked about embracing extreme you. And I want to wish the Fitness Business Podcast a super happy second birthday. You guys do such an awesome job helping the fitness industry. So just keep it up. It's awesome.
Active Management are proud to be the premier sponsors of the Fitness Business Podcast. For everyone this week in the FBP family, we have a free checklist for a cracking marketing piece, so you can get your marketing hustle mode on. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active.
Hey everyone, how awesome was that birthday message from Sarah Robb O'Hagan? Sarah is the CEO of Flywheel Sports and the author of a new book called Extreme You, and her interview is coming up on the show in just a few weeks' time. But today we officially begin celebrating 2 years of the Fitness Business Podcast, and to mark the occasion, I've invited back some of our most popular guests, starting off with the best-selling author of 8 books, one of the world's most respected thought leaders on sales, leadership, and customer experience, and a sales acquisition specialist, Jeb Blount. Jeb has just released a new book called Sales EQ. And during today's show, you're going to learn how a membership sales consultant can best use sales EQ in their role. Jeb shares his top tips on becoming an ultra high performer within your business. And we discuss 6 key tips to developing self-awareness. Also this week, to celebrate our second birthday, we're going to be introducing a new segment to the show called In the Trenches, where we chat to owners, managers, and staff across the globe who are doing seriously cool stuff in their businesses. Today's guest for In the Trenches is the Program Development and Social Media Director for Brit Bodies, Gabriella Waters. And we chat about some really great ways to get your team and your members involved in creating social media content for your business. MyZone, the wearable technology partner that enhances paid programming and drives customer engagement. Learn more at myzone.org. Jeb Blount is the best-selling author of 8 books and among the world's most respected thought leaders on sales, leadership, and customer experience. He first joined us in 2016 on shows 51 and 52 when we talked about the 5 most important questions to ask in sales, and he shared his top tips on selling fitness. Now, in 2017, Jeb has released a new book, Sales EQ. And as one of our most downloaded guests in the last 12 months, I was thrilled when he agreed to come back on the show and talk to us about how we can all use Sales EQ in our fitness business. Jeb, thank you so much for joining us once again on the show.
Thank you for having me back. I'm so pleased to be able to come back. I've been dying to come back on this show.
It is awesome. Now, I was reading that you spend something like 250 days a year traveling and delivering keynote speeches and workshops and training programs. So you must have to be super organized to manage all of that. Are there any apps or systems or rituals that you use to stay on top of things?
Yeah, it's interesting you say super organized. I would say it's super compartmentalized. Mm-hmm. So you have to be laser focused on whatever you're doing because there's so many other distractions, and so you have to be able to do that. And I've got 3 apps or 3 things that I use. One of them is my calendar. So I use the Google Calendar. All my people are hooked into it, and it jumps right into my phone. And I'm on a mobile phone most of the time, as you can imagine. So my calendar is number 1. Whatever's in my calendar, that's what I'm working on. I'm focusing on. Number 2 is a pen. I know it's weird, but it's a little analog, but it's a pen. And the number 3 thing I use is a piece of paper. So every single day, I write down the 3 most important things I'll have to accomplish that day, because there's a million things to accomplish. And I believe that you're supposed to and you should begin your day with the highest impact activities, because if you start your day with your highest impact activities, they'll get done. So I typically write down the top 3 things or the top 2 things, and sometimes only one thing that I have to accomplish the very first thing the next morning, and I focus on that. And that's how I keep the ball moving forward.
I love that suggestion, and it's so simple, isn't it? We kind of forget, with all the technology that we have at our fingertips, that sometimes the simplest options are the best.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's always the new artificial intelligence, we're going to make everything in your life easier button that you can push. But sometimes I find that opening up my phone, going through the apps, doing all those things, I end up getting distracted. I mean, sometimes I'll open it up to go to some crazy app that's supposed to get me organized, and 15 minutes later, I'm on YouTube watching a cat video, and I have no idea how I got there. But if I have a piece of pen and a paper, and the piece of paper is sitting right next to the sink in the morning, and I look down at it and I remember what I thought about the night before, the probability that I'm going to get those things accomplished is much higher.
I love that, Jeb. You know what? I have recently reverted back to the whiteboard in the market. Yeah. And now my house is full of whiteboards on the fridge and in the office, because there's something really satisfying about writing down those tasks and then rubbing them out once they're complete. I guess it's like crossing it off your list.
Well, our entire office is whiteboards. So our conference room, the walls are whiteboards. In our marketing room, the walls are whiteboards. Everybody has a whiteboard over their desk. And because I like to come in and see all my numbers, everything that's happening. I want it visual. I want it big. I want to see my clients. I want to see our enterprise clients and what are we doing to retain them in the last touches. And all of that can be in a computer someplace. But if we're writing it up there, nobody can miss it. Everybody has to see it.
Yeah.
So I'm a big whiteboard fan. I mean, it's old school, but it works.
Totally agree. Now, I want to say a huge congratulations on the release of your 8th book, Sales EQ.
Thank you very much. We're very excited to get this book out. I tell people it's the book that I would have written for myself. So if I'm a sales professional and I was out looking for a book, it's the book that if I picked it up and read it, it would connect with me. So I wrote it from that standpoint, and so far the reviews and the feedback have been phenomenal. So I'm pleased with that.
Do you want to maybe set the scene by describing for us or defining for us what is sales EQ?
Yeah, sales EQ is sales-specific emotional intelligence. And I think most people who are listening have heard the term emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman made it popular back in the early 90s when he released his book, Emotional Intelligence. And since then, emotional intelligence, more books have been written, more articles are written, training's been written on it. But very few people have talked about sales-specific emotional intelligence. And why this is important, and if you think about the fitness business, if you think about the relationship when someone, perhaps a prospective client comes in and they're interested in maybe joining your gym or joining a class or what have you, that relationship in some respects is between the salesperson, the person who's working with them, and the buyer is a finite relationship. It's different than any other relationship in your life. They come together for a particular purpose. They achieve that purpose and they move on. And the problem is that both the buyer and the seller are extremely emotional inside the context of that relationship. The buyer doesn't want to be taken advantage of. And in the fitness business, a lot of times when people are coming to you, there's been some big trigger event or change in status quo in their life that has created this desire and this need, this compelling reason for them to walk through your door in the first place. So it's, something's happened to their health. They've decided they need to lose weight. They've gotten the divorce, but there's something there. But they've got this big emotional cloud hanging over their head. At the same time, the salesperson doesn't want to lose the sale. So the salesperson's trying to work with them to try to get the sale because they've got numbers and they're getting pushed for their numbers. So in this emotional stew, the person who has the most control of their emotions has the highest probability of getting the outcome that they desire. And that's where sales EQ begins, teaching salespeople how to gain control of their emotions in the context of the commercial relationship so that they can build and create a better outcome for themselves, their company, and their client.
So, Jeb, that's a perfect segue. If we were to then, you mentioned in a fitness business, so a number of our listeners would be membership sales consultants or would have sales consultants working for them within their business. Is there any specific tips that you can give us around how a membership sales consultant within a fitness business can use sales EQ?
Well, let's begin with when someone walks through your door. 80 to 90% of the time when they're walking through the door, and I said they're coming in or they call you on the telephone and you're setting up a meeting with them. So a lot of times they'll pick up the phone first. But however they're reaching out to you, the reason that they're reaching out to you is that something has changed in their life. And sometimes it can be something really, really big. Sometimes it's something small, but in a lot of cases, it's something that is highly emotional to them. So first of all, you have to have empathy. You have to recognize that there's an emotional reason for them to be there. The second thing is that it's a cry for help. And they're coming in, they're looking for someone to help them. They need a friend. They need someone to put their arms around them and help them make that decision, because the decision to make that commitment to change is really, really hard. Even though they want to, they're compelled to, they still have to face the fact that once they make that commitment to change, now they have to change their value system basically to step into that new person that they are hoping to become. So they're really, really emotional. So if you as a fitness consultant, if you don't take the time to listen to them and understand their emotional reasons for why they're there, you're going to end up losing the sale. What'll happen is your conversation will end with, "I'll be back." And we know that people never come back into a fitness center once they leave. So what you have to do is begin with empathy, begin with listening, begin with asking questions. And we call it listening deeply. There's different monikers for this, but it's learning how to listen with both your eyes, your ears, and your intuition, your heart. So you're paying attention to those emotional cues, and then you're shaping your questions and you're shaping everything that you do and say around those emotional cues. And I think the other piece to remember, and this is different in your industry than in other industries, is that the window of dissatisfaction, this place where there's a disruption in that buyer status quo, is very, very short. So, for example, if let's say that a mom is getting dressed in the morning and her 5-year-old says, "Why are you fatter than all the other mommies?" I mean, that happens, right? And the mommy immediately is embarrassed and takes the kid to school the next morning, self-conscious, decides, "I got to do something about this." Right? They walk through your door. If they walk out of the door, they will snap back to where they were before. They can go back to that status quo. So as a consultant, you have to understand that. And this, Chantal, is really the core of sales-specific emotional intelligence. In this commercial relationship, in this relationship that is not anything like anything else that you have in your life, great salespeople, great fitness consultants do something called dual process. At one moment, they are empathetic. They are standing in the shoes and in the heart of the person who walked their door. And at the same time, they are outcome oriented. So they're focused on, I've got to get to the outcome. I've got to close this sale. I've got to move forward. And so they never lose sight of those things. It's a very difficult thing to do, to be empathetic and outcome oriented at the same time, because for you, the salesperson, it creates something called cognitive dissonance, which is a painful mental stress when you try to hold two value systems at the same time. But your ability to do that is what sets you apart from everyone else. It is the genesis of ultra high performance, because unlike people who are totally empathetic, who will let the person walk out the door because they feel bad for them, or the person who is totally self-centric, who only cares about themselves and what they want, so they basically run past all of the emotional reasons why the person's there. The person who has dual process or presents dual process is both empathetic and understanding, understands the reasons why they're there, and at the same time has the emotional acuity and control to wrap their arms around that particular buyer, that prospect, and help them make the right decision for their life.
Jeb, I'm going to fast forward a little bit to a section that I think is really relevant to what you've just talked us through, and that is in chapter 9 of Sales EQ. You talk about self-awareness. And when I was reading that chapter, I was thinking how relevant this is for our membership sales consultants and our personal trainers. And I think you briefly just touched on that as well in the answer to your previous question. Can you maybe tell everyone a little bit more about that self-awareness? And you also talk about 6 keys to developing self-awareness. Can you maybe just briefly touch on those for us?
Yes, absolutely. Well, if we think about self-awareness as a function of understanding who you are, it begins with moving away from delusion. And in sales, you can't be delusional and successful at the same time. Now, every single person on earth, every single person has a personality, and we have a communication style. And our communication style, for some people, totally connects. Like you and I were talking earlier, and you're like, "Hey, I like your energy." So our communication style, because we're both socializer, energizer type people, we totally connect with each other. And in some cases, your personality style does not connect with people. And in fact, it can push people away. So what you have to do, and when you are working on your self-awareness, is first understand who you are. And then you can do that through a DISC assessment. And there's a bunch of different places where you can grab assessments, but you can learn who you are and understand your communication style so that you can recognize the communication style of other people, and you can shift that to them. The next thing I think is important, especially in your industry, is that some people in your industry have become fitness consultants because they themselves had this emotional breakthrough that took them to a place where they decided to change their life, to make a change that made them physically look better, feel better, and probably extended their lifestyle. Some people are in your industry because they're just fitness nut jobs, right? They just love fitness. And so they do fitness all the time. And they're so obsessed and they're so enthusiastic and passionate about it. It's all they really want to talk about. So if you are the person who has that background where you've been there, it's probably easier for you to step into that prospect's shoes and really understand where they're coming from. But if you're that person that's super passionate about fitness and you love it and you live it and you eat it and you breathe it, what happens is that you have a tendency to pontificate. So you begin talking at your prospect about all the things that are important to you rather than the things that are important to them. And trust me on this, your prospects are not buying. They are not buying fitness. They are not buying memberships for your reasons. They're buying them for their reasons. So you have to be aware of that so that you can modulate that. There's nothing wrong with being passionate. There's nothing wrong with your desire and your compelling reason to bring people along and show them what's important to you. But you have to first listen to them and understand that, and then bridge your passion to their reason for being there and their language. And it all begins with being aware. Now, a couple of things. We talked about some of the things that that you can do. One of the things is psychometric assessments. You can actually go get an assessment and understand your communication style. You can also get a coach. And it's no different than, when someone comes into your center, your gym, and your facility, and they hire a coach to help them exercise. So you get someone who's a personal trainer. That's a coach. The personal trainer can see the things that they can't see. So as a fitness consultant or a business owner, sometimes it helps to have a coach on your team who can see the things that you can't see. And here in the U.S., we provide a great deal of coaching for salespeople who come to us and say, I want to get better. You can also, if you're a fitness consultant, go to your manager, go to the person who owns your facility, go to someone that you work with or even a peer and say, can you tell me what I can do better? Can you help me see what I can do better? The key is to listen to them and pay attention. The other thing that you can do is just go ask for feedback. This can be really tough because asking for feedback can be painful, because if you ask for feedback and people give you feedback that you don't want to hear, it might hurt your feelings. But if you have that courage, you can build that courage. You can sit down with people and say, can you give me some specific feedback about this? And that to me is important. You can't just say, give me feedback. You have to tell people exactly what you want because they won't know where to begin. So you can get feedback. Another place that I think is powerful is writing down your goals. So sitting down and asking the question, what do I want? When do I want it? And how bad do I want it? And when you begin writing down your goals and you put them in what we call a goal sheet, but you put them in some format that works for you, when you start asking this question, you get real up close and personal with what you want. And a lot of times when you're sitting there about to write something down and it feels really uncomfortable, that tells you where your fear is and that tells you what you may be hiding from. So I find that to be extremely helpful. Another place that you can go, now this can be expensive, but you can, if you go on and Google a 360 feedback or a 360 degree review, there are companies that will do this for you. But what they will do is independently, someone will interview all the people around you and ask them your opinion of them. They do this in a very scientific and systematic way. And then they'll give you feedback that you wouldn't get normally anywhere else. And trust me on this, when you go through it, it will put you in the fetal position because it is painful, but it will change your life. And I had this done for myself a few years back, and it literally changed my life. It changed everything about what was happening with me and the way I was communicating with other people, because I was so blind to the things that I was doing that was damaging. And then I think finally, self-reflection. And the nice thing about being in the fitness industry is that you have the opportunity to do that. I mean, one of the places where, for example, I can sit quietly and just reflect is when I'm on my stationary bike. I've got a spin bike, and Sometimes when I'm working out, I get so focused on working out that my brain stops thinking about everything else that's out there, and it focuses on me and my problems and my issues, and it really helps. Or you can, yoga is a great place to do it, or meditation, where you just sit and think. And there's, some specialists out there that will say, everybody should do this 15 or 20 minutes a day, sit in silence, which, today is so hard because within arm's reach of almost every human being on earth is a mobile phone that's got really cool cat videos on it. So you can just dive into that and forget everything else. But everything and, every change in your life, every good thing in your life, and all of the opportunities that you're going to have as a sales professional to become an ultra high performer begin with self-awareness, understanding who you are, how you communicate, what's important to you, where you have weaknesses, where you have strengths, and then being able to manage those and control those so that you can be aware of your own emotions and you can influence the emotions of other people.
Jeb, just hearing you say the words 360 put a kind of shiver down my spine as exactly as you explained it. And I'm sure that anyone out there that has been through a 360 review will have exactly the same feeling, and how you described it was so spot on. And in the interest of complete honesty, I went through a 360-degree review back in my corporate days when I was in sales. And it was one of the most confronting, life-changing experiences that I've ever been through. And whilst, as you described it at the time, I was so shocked, I guess, and unaware of some of the ways that I was behaving or being around colleagues or being around clients. It actually, what started off as an incredibly difficult experience ended up being a life-changing experience and led me to doing fitness business. So I think, exactly what you said in regards to being open to learning and being open to hearing what other people see and view is such an important part of our personal growth and our career growth.
Absolutely. And it is the 360 review. I love the shivers because it's just, there's just days on end where you're just ill. You're just so,
when you said fetal position, I was like, "Yep, I understand."
But I came out of the same way. It changed. Yeah. It changed everything in my life.
Yeah,
it was that important.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and recommending it. Because if you have not been through that, it is well worth giving that a go. Now, Jeb, in the interview earlier and right throughout the book, you do talk a lot about ultra high performers, UHP. Do you think you can talk us through a broad overview of some of the qualities of an ultra high performer?
Absolutely. I'll give you the top 5. And I've spent most of my career studying ultra high sales performance. And it began with my ultra high sales performance. I won every trophy, every award my company ever gave out. And I, stood on the platform with the chairman of the board of a, $15 billion company, year after year after year. I went to President's Club every year that I was in sales. And I just operated at the upper echelons of that sales organization, usually number 1 out of thousands of reps all the time. And I didn't know why. I mean, I had some idea, but I didn't really understand why. And that's the problem with a lot of ultra high performers. If you go ask them, why are you an ultra high performer? They don't really know why either. So I began by breaking it down and trying to understand what do people do differently and why they do it differently, and became a student of this whole concept. And I basically, if you think about it, and it's shocking because these are things that everybody can control. It begins with their fanatical prospectors. I mean, they are constantly finding ways to get new opportunities in their pipeline. And so if you think about the fitness industry as a whole, I'd say, at least probably 60-70% of fitness consultants sit and wait for people to come to them. But your ultra high performers, if you notice, they have a line of people waiting for them. And the reason there's a line of people waiting for them is they're working everybody. They're getting referrals. They're talking to their friends. They'll pick up the phone and they'll cold call if they have to do that. But they're constantly always fanatical about putting prospects into their database. The second thing that they're focused on is time. They're extremely disciplined with time. So they understand that every day they're faced with 3 choices. They can do things that are trivial, like watching cat videos. They can do things that are important. And there's a lot of things that are important to do every single day. And you have to do the important things or you won't survive. And you can do things that are impactful. And they, above all other people, they start their day with impactful things. And you've watched this. You've watched ultra high performers in your world, and you watch what they do. They are systematic and robotic about getting the most important things of their day done first. That's what they do every single day. They're also obsessed with win probabilities, and they see everything in sales as a probability. You only have so much time. You have 24 hours a day. That's it, no more. So ultra high performers are masters at focusing that limited amount of time on the highest probability opportunities. They're able to do that because they're fanatical prospectors. They're able to leverage their confidence to do that because they don't have to hold on to low probability things. And everything that they do when they're dealing with prospects is about bending win probability in their favor. So, for example, ultra performers understand that when someone walks through their door, that some trigger event has happened in their life, and that trigger event is going to create a situation where they are going to, either make a choice or they're going to move on. And if they don't take advantage of that while that person is in that place where their status quo has been disrupted, that person is going to move on. So they ask questions, they build relationships, they do everything that they possibly can to put win probability in their favor. Every question they ask, every place they go, everything they say, everything is about that. The fourth thing that they do, in my opinion, is they have high drive, which is also a component of sales EQ. And that is that they're competitive. High drive is basically a composite of competitiveness, optimism, and need for achievement. If you look at your ultra high performers, they love to achieve, but they win for the sake of winning. You rarely will you find an ultra high performer and they're winning because they want more money. They win because they see that they have to win, which is a really great trait. Because if you think about a lot of people in your industry, in the fitness industry, they're competitive people. They have a need for achievement. They set goals for themselves, and they typically are optimistic. So the composite of those things drives a high drive. Some of that drive is innate. Some of it is just talent, is what they were born with. But a lot of it is what they foster and build and grow through working on their attitude. You asked me, one of the habits that I have is, I listen to podcasts in my car because I recognize that if I'm in my car and I'm listening to podcasts that are good for me, I'm likely going to perform better when I get out of my car than if I'm listening to, say, talk radio or the news, where it's usually not so good for me, and I get out of my car. So ultra high performers get that. And then finally, they are virtuosos with people. They have high sales EQ. They understand how human beings work, and they have studied human behavior. And they understand that humans are both irrational and extremely predictable if you just understand human behavior frameworks. And unlike average salespeople, ultra high performers, all they've done is studied, understand them, and they get it. And they usually learn from someone else. They don't always know the name of the frameworks that they use, but because they were coachable and because they were always focused on learning and getting more knowledge, they were able to gain that understanding of how human beings work over time. And sometimes, like you and I, we had to go through the hard lesson of a 360 in order to take what we knew and then move it to the next level so that we could grow even higher. And you'll notice that ultra high performers, and I notice it all the time when I'm working with a client, the very best salespeople are the ones that are sticking around after class, before class, hitting me up on my phone, sending me text messages, connecting with LinkedIn. It's always the best salespeople who are driving me crazy for more information, who want to learn more. And other people don't do that. So they're focused on learning every single thing that they can about how human beings work.
Jeb, before we head into the final question today, if people want to get their hands on Sales EQ or Fanatical Prospecting, or people buy you or any of your books or the podcast, where is the best place for them to go?
Honestly, the best place to go is Amazon. I think that if you're anywhere in the world, Amazon's going to get you there. If you're in the U.S., you can go to any Barnes & Noble, any Barnes & Noble store, and you can pick it up. It'll be in the store, and it's in some stores in the UK, in some stores in South Africa. It may be in a couple of stores in Australia, but it will definitely be available on Amazon. If you want an autographed copy of it, go to salesgravy.com and click on the icon on the top bar called Shop, and we've got autographed copies with some swag that goes along with them. And then if you want to listen to my podcast, obviously you can go to iTunes or Stitcher, any of the places where you can download a podcast.
That is so sensational. And Tribe, I cannot recommend highly enough that you do go out, not only read Sales EQ, which was Jeb's book that we've been talking about today, but his previous books as well. And there is an overview of all of those on Sales Gravy as well. So make sure that you check those out. And I should remind everyone as well, if you didn't hear Jeb's first 2 interviews with us, go back and take a listen. So that shows 51 and 52, and you can find both of those at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Now, Jeb, to finish off today, I'm hoping you can leave us with a little bit of fitbispiration and tell us your top 3 tips for fitness owners to grow and to succeed in business over the next 12 months. Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
For the first thing that you have to do is you have to get prospects. So number one is do everything you possibly can to become a great marketer. And I'm doing this in my own business. And I think in our world, because there's so much distraction for people, you've got to market and almost take a 360 view of marketing. Every single place that you can be, you've got to do that. And you have to be disciplined and great at it. So whether it's social media, whether it's traditional advertising, whether it's Facebook advertising, whether it's putting someone out on the street in front of your place with a poster that says, come in and see us, whatever it takes, you've got to be doing a lot of marketing. You've got to keep your name in front of people. Number 2 is you've got to get great at converting people when they walk through your door. So all that marketing, all the work that you do, when they walk through the door, you've got to pay attention to why, the emotional side of selling, because when people are coming through your door, it is because something changed in their life. And the thing that I love about the fitness business is it's a totally emotional sale. And if you get that and understand that, you'll have conversion rates that will outstrip anybody in your industry. And number 3, you have to keep the customers you have. And I don't think there's any business owner that doesn't understand this, but all businesses is getting and keeping customers. So you have to make sure that you're building relationships with your people and your customers, the people that are there. And I can tell you straight up, the number one reason why you're losing memberships is through neglect. You're not paying attention to them. They're not hearing from you. They're not getting love. And you've got to stay in front of them, keep them engaged, and keep them focused, because after that burning desire wears off, then comes the really hard work of sticking to it. And I think every business owner in the world knows the value of a long-term customer, because once they're there with you for a long time, and once that membership renews for the second time, it becomes really, really profitable for you. Plus, they're giving you a lot of referrals.
Jeb, I feel like we are the luckiest people ever to get you back on the show once again. I want to thank you so, so much for coming back on, for talking to us about Sales EQ, for diving into fitness businesses and talking to us about the relevance of Sales EQ with our fitness businesses. So thank you so much for coming back on the show and joining us once again.
Well, thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. And thanks for listen to me. And if any of your audience buys my book in advance, thank you. I'm grateful.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
Welcome to the newest segment on the show called In the Trenches, where we speak to top owners, managers, and staff from across the globe who are doing seriously cool stuff in their businesses. Today's guest is Gabriella Walters from Brick Bodies, a chain of clubs in Maryland in the USA. Welcome along to the show, Gabriella.
Thank you, Chantal.
Gabriella, you are the Program Development and Social Media Director, and I believe that you create branded workouts and you handle the social media marketing, plus you're a group fitness manager and instructor. That is quite a role that you have in the business.
I have all the hats. Yes.
You have all the hats you do, and you do a seriously good job of it. And the reason we wanted to get you on today was really to be talking about the connection between your instructors and your members and how you transition and transform that relationship to social media platforms. So can we start by talking about the role that social media plays in the outreach of new clients for Brick Bodies?
Well, social media plays a huge role in helping new clients engage with the brand overall, because for a lot of people, the first step to finding a gym isn't necessarily asking their friends, it's going online. So we are using that platform to make them feel like part of the community and to give them a taste of what it's like to be part of this Brick Bodies family, just from a snapshot of wherever they land and find us digitally.
Talking about snapshot, one of the reasons that you got our attention is the fantastic photos that you take after class and your instructors take after class. How do you actually go about briefing your team of instructors when it comes to taking photos of members?
Well, if you've not been doing it before, the easiest way to do it is to lead by example. So you have to swallow down some of that fear and start posting your own after workout selfies on social media and using your brand's hashtags or keywords or AdWords to help drive home the message that this is something I'm also willing to try. And if it's not you who's actually teaching the class, then you need to get that one champion excited and get them started on that journey. And then keep everything about those images positive. You know, we work out to relieve stress, to feel better, to kind of take an escape from the day. So you don't want to add anything volatile to your messaging or anything like that. Show something, give it some nice positive words, and use things that you know people will tune into. For us, do it for the selfie as a hashtag worked very well because more people started to look at it as an opportunity to show their friends what they were up to and get them involved.
So with that do it for the selfie promotion that you ran, did you get the instructors and the members to post those photos on their own social media platforms and then tag in Brick Bodies?
Yes. So what would happen is, let's say you were one of my instructors, you would post on your Facebook and your Instagram, and you would hashtag do it for the selfie. And then you would tag all of the members who were in that photo. And in most cases, even if you didn't know all of their names, when they saw themselves online, they would tag themselves. And then we would share those pictures, and more people would share, and they would say things like, oh, well, this is my friend, you know, Chantal, and she is taking this class and it looks so much fun. Like, I'm going to do this with her next week. And then I'm going to do it for the selfie. So do it for the selfie kind of took on its own little peer pressure life of its own.
That's excellent. Are there any other campaigns or hashtags that you can share with us that have been really successful for Brick Bodies?
Our most successful hashtag has been Resolve to Evolve. This January, we had our open house on the 24th. And to build anticipation for that, we created the Resolve to Evolve campaign. And all of our after-class selfies had that hashtag. Everything that was connected to promoting the open house had that hashtag, to the point where people who were not necessarily working out, who had seen the hashtag, were using the hashtag just because they wanted to be a part of it. So, like, if someone had a flat tire or something, they would say, you know, resolve to evolve. I'm strong enough now to, you know, jack my car up. It was just really funny how that kind of viralized itself. And I know I'm committing like genericide by saying viralized, but it did take on its own life and people were excited about it. There was a lot of energy and it was all driven by social media. We didn't do any direct mail pieces or billboards or anything of that nature. We created the buzz 100% on social media, and it drove people into the club on that day. We had our highest attendance numbers, and it was just all just using videos that featured members and instructors and using those fun selfies, and it really created some awareness and drove people into the classes.
Wow. So I'm going to get quite specific with you here so that we have a good understanding of it. So you say that all of the hashtags were used on social media. So even in the initial stages of creating that campaign and building the excitement and everything, was there no printed material, no posters? There was nothing in the club that actually had that hashtag? Was it purely born from instructors and people within the club just starting to use it and then it catching on with the members?
It really did catch on with the members. We made one printed piece of material, and it was a business card size card that would allow you entry. So we gave these out to members and they gave them to their friends because they could come for free with that piece of paper. But the hashtag is what drove it. And we were using it and announcing that during the classes. And we were posting those on our Facebook feed. We were doing Facebook Live videos with it. So it was just really hard to ignore for everyone.
That's sensational. That's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Gabriella. So can you maybe just share with us, to finish off, 3 tips that you can give all of our listeners today to really get their team and their participants involved and excited about taking class photos or class videos and sharing those pics on social media?
Well, a picture is worth 1,000 words, 1,000 calories, 1,000 shares, 1,000 likes, 1,000 regrams, 1,000 retweets. So I can tell you about a workout experience, but that one image says more than anything that I could articulate. So getting people to understand me saying, well, in our weight training class, you can expect to burn up to 1,000 calories. You'll sculpt your entire body, or I can show you a video 15 seconds long of people working out in that weight training class, and you're going to get more of a feel for that, seeing it versus me telling you about it. So helping everyone to understand that those images are tailor-made for sharing. The second thing is, we are all in this business because we want to change lives. And as an instructor, that's one of the core principles that I hold close, is that I want to make sure that I do everything I can to help keep people healthy. And so sharing this information and getting the word out there means more opportunities to help impact the world, shape health all over the globe and in our communities. So you want to impress upon your team how important that is and remind them, this is why you came here. This is what you live for. You memorize choreography and choose music because you want to change the life of that person that comes in your room. And then the third thing is, it's fun. After class selfies are a really cool way to kind of chronicle what happens in your class and let the members tag themselves online and share things and talk about it and feel some pride for accomplishing the workout challenges or whatever it is. And as an instructor, what I'm always telling my team is use people's names. And if you don't know their names, you can learn them because they will tag themselves in their photos. And then you'll say, oh, okay, that's so-and-so. And then you can help personalize those workouts even more the next time you see them. And you bring the fitness experience out of the gym and onto another level with their lives without losing that, distance that you might want to keep. So it's still happening online and you still see them in the gym, but you can still connect to them on a deeper level, find out how they're training, what their goals are. If one of your class members is training for a triathlon, then you can suggest other kinds of workouts to help them. Or if they're getting ready for a marathon, you can talk to them about tapering. So you extend your services just by taking that one photo after your class.
Gabriella, I absolutely love that concept. And we talk a lot about how important it is to form a connection with our members outside of the hours that they're training in our facilities. And you've just given us a really great way and a great example to do that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I'm going to put a link to the Brick Bodies Fitness Instagram page in today's show notes because I've just got it up on my screen now. And I love the way that you have incorporated like a countdown 7 days out from the day that you mentioned that you got all of that activity. You've included the countdown each day you've posted, plus you've got the resolve to evolve hashtag throughout. So I can see exactly why and how you've built the momentum for that campaign. So thank you so much for joining us today for our In the Trenches segment. It was fantastic speaking to you, Gabriella.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Precor Quickfire 5.
Lisa Simone Richards is a visibility strategist for health, fitness, and wellness entrepreneurs who want to get featured on TV, online, on podcasts, on stage, in magazines, and in newspapers. She first joined us back in show 58 to talk about how to get your fitness brand in the media. And as one of our most downloaded guests in 2016, I am thrilled that she said yes to coming back on in 2017. Welcome back, Lisa Simone.
Chantel, I am so excited to be chatting with you yet again and so incredibly honored to be welcomed back to the show.
Well, we are thrilled to have you back, and we're going to start off today by going through our Precor Quickfire 5 questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I love working with entrepreneurs. I'm so passionate about those people who decided to leave their safe, boring, beige cubicle jobs to do something that's going to make a really positive impact on the world. So my work helps them get their work out there, and that really fires me up.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever received is the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So my word for 2017 is consistency. And I'm noticing that in all areas of my life. If I slack off in one spot, it shows up in another. So I'm learning how to be consistent everywhere.
And how about a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
Constantly learning. I am a personal and professional development junkie. I'm always at a conference, or I'm in some sort of course, or I'm working with a coach. So it helps me definitely level up both personally and professionally.
Well, that is a perfect segue. Tell us, what's one book, podcast, or blog that you would recommend and why?
I would totally recommend Brendan Bouchard's The Charged Life podcast. It has these perfect 8 and 9 minute little interviews or commentaries that are so quickly digestible. And there's no way that you can't feel leaving super amped up after listening to one of his podcast episodes.
And last but not least, what will our listeners learn in next week's show?
So next week, the listeners are going to learn all about precise positioning. They're going to learn how to describe themselves in a way that separates them from the crowd, how to speak their ideal client's language so that they're magnetically attracted to them, and finally, how to succinctly and effectively communicate the transformation that they offer their clients.
I love the sound of that and cannot wait to welcome you back in next week's show. Thank you so much, Lisa Simone.
Chat with you soon.
That interview is coming up next week in show 106. Until then, thank you for joining us for another week of the Fitness Business Podcast. And today, I'm going to hand over to one of our wonderful guests with a special message to finish the show.
It's Tom Breeze here, and I was a guest on the Fitness Business Podcast, where I shared some tips on YouTube advertising. I just want to wish the Fitness Business Podcast a very happy second birthday. You guys are doing an amazing job helping the fitness industry. Keep up the great work.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded, and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au, only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget, all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.